you aware that church marriage is not a valid marriage in Nigeria? It is at best spiritual blessings. Now, this means that church marriage is not recognized by law in Nigeria. The only two types of marriages recognized by law in Nigeria are traditional marriage, which is also known as native law marriage or customary marriage, and marriage under the Act or statutory marriage. Now, the marriage under the Act is what so many people call court marriage, but that is wrong. It is not court marriage, it is statutory marriage or marriage under the Act, and it is usually contracted at the marriage registry by the Ministry of Interiors. This means that only the Ministry of Interior can contract a valid statutory marriage. However, churches or other places of worship can be licensed by the Ministry of Interior to contract statutory marriages. So, this means that only places of worship that are licensed by the Ministry of Interiors can contract valid statutory marriage. And we all know that many churches in Nigeria are not licensed by the Ministry of Interiors. So if your church is not licensed by the Ministry of Interiors to contract a statutory marriage, that marriage is just a spiritual blessing, and regardless of any certificate issued to you, that certificate is as good as useless because it is not recognized by the law. And where you did not contract a traditional marriage, you only contracted that church marriage, it means you are not legally married to your husband or your wife. Both of you are not legally married because you did not do traditional marriage, and the place of worship where you contracted your marriage is not licensed by the Ministry of Interior, so that your certificate is as good as useless. However, where you contract a traditional marriage and you go on to contract a marriage in your church, and your church is not licensed by the Ministry of Interiors, that marriage will be governed by customary laws. And we all know that most customary laws are not favorable to women. So, where you have the intention of contracting a valid marriage in the church, always make sure that church is licensed by the Ministry of Interiors to contract the marriage under the Act. Now share this video to your friends, click on follow, like, and I'm gonna see you next time. Ciao.